Good morning, everybody. I'm Christina. This is Cassidy. We're here today at the Missouri Botanical Garden. And this morning we are going to start off our virtual tour by showing you guys these swift pools here in front of the Linnaean House, which look awesome right now. Now, we've showed you the larger Victoria lilies before in the central axis, but here we have some smaller ones as well. And you can see some of them are blooming this morning. A lot of dragonflies buzzing around. And here we wanted to stop and show you. You can see there's some construction going on the Linnaean House. And if you look through this door here, you can see they've cut a new doorway in the Linnaean House. So that's going to be, you can walk through there once the new visitor center is complete. And you can kind of see how walking through there, you'll be able to look through those doors and see for quite a long way this vista all the way down through the rose garden to the central axis. So it's really cool to see that progress.
And they have two walls up or almost up on the first phase of the visitor center, so that's nice to see some actual above ground work.
And here in this pool, all of these water lilies are species water lilies. So that means they occur naturally in the wild. They're not cultivated or hybridized at all. So this is just a cool opportunity to see what you might encounter if you were actually to come across these in the wild.
And here's one up here that caught my eye this morning. It's really pretty. It says it's fragrant. I was nervous to lean too far over to see if it... Can you smell it?
I don't know that I can. I also don't want to lean too far.
But just a very pretty flower. Nymphaea odorata forma rubra, which I assume that means that is referencing that pink coloration. And you can see there, over here, a blue one that's just getting ready to open. We walk along the edge here. It's not open yet, but this is Nymphaea thermarum. It's actually the world's smallest species of water lily, and it's extinct in the wild. So the garden is one of a handful of botanical gardens that has this species in their collection and caring for it. And you can see there's the tiny little flower right there. Once the sun comes out today, that'll open up. A lot of these are day blooming lilies, so the light from the sun really kicks them into knowing it's time to open. And right now it's just not sunny enough, so they're just like the rest of us, not wanting to get up on an overcast Monday.
And here we have some plants that are good for pollinators. You can see this sign here is pointing that out. We just went through National Pollinator Week last week. So these are some good things that you can plant in your yard. The coneflowers are a really popular, colorful one. Here in this pool, this mosaic plant here is a really cool one. And this water mimosa is sensitive. If you touch it, it'll close up. Let me see if I can show you. Closes right up. Pretty cool. This is another pollinator friendly plant here, the butterfly bush. And we'll take you this way down this nice shady path here. We'll have to avoid these sprinklers.
Well, this is, why don't we stop before we get too wet. We can just mention that this garden is, we call it the sensory garden, and so it's all about being able to touch and feel and smell the plants. A lot of these have some sort of medicinal value, and they're also used when we're open at normal capacity. They're used for programming to help people connect with plants through our horticulture therapy program. So this is a and it clearly needs some water, so that's why the sprinklers are on. But you can see lots of great color in here, and I know this is a favorite for a lot of kids. And that's part of the sensory experience. All right,
let's run through now, yeah.
And in case we didn't mention it, the garden is currently closed on Mondays for deep cleaning and just to make sure that we're keeping everybody safe. But we'll be open Tuesday through Sunday, and that's one of the reasons that all these sprinklers are on right now, is because there aren't as many visitors to contend with. Yep, guys.
Oh no! Hold on. Okay. Just trying to keep the camera dry. It's a pretty humid day. I don't know that we're going to stay dry anyway, one way or another.
Although we made it through the sprinkler gauntlet, so that's good.
Here, we'll stop here and look. This is always worthy of a pause, this view.
Well, here's something that we'll show real quick. Back in May, we were going through the iris garden when it was in peak bloom with Taylor, who oversees the area. And this is some of the maintenance that you'll see typically happen in the summer now that the blooms are gone, cutting back some of that foliage. And if you are needing to divide your irises in your own yard, if they've kind of gotten too bunched together, this heat of the summer is a good time to do that. So you can see some of the work that our horticulture staff is doing in these gardens even after peak bloom is well past. That was about 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
For the irises. I think this garden looks better every time we walk through it.
I think so too.
Just every day it fills in a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. This is another garden that Taylor takes care of. Colors are so bright and warm. A lot of the daylilies are oranges and reds and pinks.
Oh, maybe. It looks like she might be getting ready to put some labels out.
Yeah.
And that's something that just because of the pandemic and some limitations on staff and volunteers, some signage hasn't gone out in some of the garden areas. But you can see here some of the signs for these daylilies. I'm really interested to know which one is Stardust Dragon.
Yeah.
But it looks like Taylor is going to be putting those out, and that'll make it a lot easier when you come to visit to identify the specific cultivar of daylily. And as you can see, she'll have her work cut out for her because there are
so many. Do you know how many there are?
I don't.
I know we have 1,200 irises, and it looks like more than that.
Oh, I could imagine, yeah. I mean, you can see here, there's all these bundles just for this one bed here.
Wow, yeah.
I know that will help Christina and I out a great deal.
Yes.
To know the specific varieties and be able to talk a little bit better about them on these tours. And these actually are all labeled year-round with something like this. So this is solar music right here. And so these tags stay in the ground all the time. And those other labels just make it a little bit easier for visitors to see the cultivar names. There's just so much color in here.
I know. Yeah, you just want to keep like spinning around. You're always surrounded by the color.
Look at this one. Look at this.
Whoa. That is a cool one.
And this is a really neat space actually in the winter as well. So the daylilies sort of dominate in the summer, but a lot of these shrubs in the background here are witch hazel. And so that's a shrub that flowers in the winter months, February, early March. And so this is really a space that kind of has two very different seasons. You can come here when it's 40 degrees and see lots of pretty blooms from the witch hazels, and then you can come here when it's 90 degrees and and see all this color in the daylilies. And you can see here's more labels. I mean, that just, if that gives you any idea of the scope of labels that are put out in this garden, and that's something that's usually done with an army of volunteers.
We'll walk past this herring house garden again. It's just bursting right now.
Yeah, we shared a few aerial photos of this area on Facebook yesterday, I believe. Just to kind of give you that bird's eye view. Again, just density of color in here. Gladiolas, coneflowers, lilies, blazing star. This is rattlesnake master, I think. Or maybe this is blue globe thistle. I'll stick to the things I know. Although I am pretty sure this is globe thistle, because you can kind of see the blue coming out there.
So beautiful. It's just so packed in back here too.
This is pretty interesting. This bed here, where you can see the plants in pots sitting on the soil line. This bed has been under renovation for a couple of years, so now there's actually some plants going in here. That'll be pretty exciting to see how that fills in and what it looks like.
Yeah.
And you can see that's a bed sort of in between the main path and the formal garden here, which lots of really great reds in this design. It's really cool to see. We're just here at the top of the Layman Rose Garden. Lots of bright pinks from Monarda, as you can see, and we've got the fountain on.
Mm-hmm. And here in the English Woodland Garden, we had some smaller paths closed that were now opening. So you can see these side paths here. You'll now be able to take a stroll down when you come visit.
Yeah, and that was a change that took effect on Saturday. The Kemper Center for Home Gardening, the outdoor areas there also reopened on Saturday. And we had a change to the way that we do ticketing. So now when you reserve a ticket, it is it's for the entire day. You don't have to come at a specific hourly time. So those were a few changes that took effect on Saturday, and this one allows you to get into the woodland to see things like this, which is a really cool oak leaf hydrangea.
And you can see why it's called oak leaf.
I like this one in particular because it is flanked over here. You can see on the other side by this fallen beech tree. So this was a European beech that fell down in a storm a couple of years ago, and normally that's something that staff would remove, but in this case they left it in place so that you could kind of see the process of what would happen in a true woodland setting, where if a tree falls it just stays there, and so you can kind of see the decomposition taking place, and also how the hydrangea next to it is kind of overtaking it, and it's just a really,
yeah,
I think a really nice juxtaposition there. You can see there are still some smaller paths closed here. This one leading to the boxwood garden is closed. But by opening up these main paths, it gives you more space to explore the woodland. Stop by the babbling brook.
Some more hydrangea here on our right. This is not the oak leaf you can see. I'm not sure exactly what kind it is.
Lots of wildlife here, especially on the days that we're closed. They're a little bit more brazen. I was here a few days ago, the last Monday when we were closed, and I saw a little fox just hanging out in the Japanese garden. And we've seen him on our tours running across the bridge.
Yeah.
And if you hear that buzzing in the background, that's horticulturist Dave Gunn, who's clearing off the paths. Hi, Dave. And you can see just a lot of green in here right now, as in most woodland settings. A lot of things going to fruit that were blooming a few weeks or even a couple of months ago. Look how clean this path is. They did a great job. Look how bright red some of these.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if the camera will tilt up and if it'll show up very well, but the leaves here are just really bright red.
Yeah. Maybe we could go check out the rock garden.
Yeah.
I haven't been over there in a little while, and I don't think that there's access to it right now when we're open. Get a little behind the scenes look.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time in this rock garden in April and early May, which are really sort of the peak months for a lot of the species that are in here, because they're alpine plants, and so they're used to it being much cooler than St. Louis gets in the middle of summer. So and that's part of the experiment, actually, of having these here, is learning if some of these plants that typically grow on mountaintops where it's very cold, learning if they can survive the St. Louis summers, the heat, the humidity. Some of these plants are doing better than I am right now in the heat and humidity. And there's definitely still some color here.
Yeah.
Oh, you can see this is just spilled over the side.
Yeah.
And really
That's
taken
amazing.
over this.
It's coming out of that trough, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, and you can see there's some more of it over up on the rocks over across the way. I wonder if that's why it's called soapwort. I don't know. Just by touching it, my hands have gotten really sticky.
Oh, really?
So maybe if it was mixed with a little bit of water, it would
Make
give me
good
lather or
soap.
something. Yeah.
There's a water feature over here that's relatively new. It went in late last year, and since we were closed for a couple months, a lot of people probably still haven't seen this yet. This here is yarrow or yarrow. This has been blooming for a long time.
And we've seen a lot of different varieties. We haven't really pointed them out much on the tour so far, but these are in bloom all over the garden. Whites and yellows. But that's a pretty distinctive flower head that it develops there. All these little clusters. So that's a pretty easy one to pick out of the landscape. It's really nice back here in the Stumpery in the shade. Lots of hydrangea and hosta and ferns as well. Just really digging the shade back here on these hot days.
I just saw we have a question from Christine, and it was called soapwort, wasn't it? The plant that you said felt soapy?
Soapwort.
Soapwort. And here I wanted to show you earlier, but we had to dodge the sprinklers, how many of our hostas are in bloom right now, and they get these really cool flowers. You can really see with this one the variety of hostas. This is huge, huge leaves here. Versus that little one that I had just showed you. Some like this.
I think maybe let's head back to the formal garden and give a little closer look at that, since we were at a bit of a distance before.
Yeah.
I think these are actually some ornamental peppers here. You can see the little
Oh yeah.
fruits in here. Yeah, really nice dark purple leaf.
I see we have a question from Bren about the round circles in the grass. So those are some sandier, rockier beds that become the pincushion gardens, where really intricately planted designs of succulents and cacti are planted sort of mid to late summer each year. And those are really cool once they go in.
And that's another one we'll have to check. I don't know, that usually takes about a half dozen people several days to install, so I'm not sure if those will be installed this year or not. I know we've seen in the greenhouses that they were growing those succulents, so we'll have to check and see if those will go in or not. Maybe, I don't know that we've, I can't remember the last time we've walked through there, but maybe we can make a pit stop here in the herb garden behind Tower Grove House.
It has been a while since we've been back here.
I could just see a lot of color out of the corner of my eye here.
Ooh, I love the color of this plant here. It's such a cool, dusty green, and it's called Dusty Miller.
I do love this little bed right here, Christina. These are all different kinds of thyme, and pun intended, there's a sundial right there in the center. So truly a bed of all time. Lots of rosemary here, or maybe this is the rosemary here
In the center.
I still can't smell through the mask.
Really?
These purple ones here are balloon flower.
Yeah, and look at the buds. They look like a full balloon.
And this is in the Campanulaceae family, the bellflower family. It's a really pretty flower.
It looks like we're starting to lose our signal back here, so we'll just go ahead and end our tour here today. But I hope you all enjoyed it, and thank you for tuning in. We'll just end here on this view of the herb garden and formal garden.